order the Columbia 911 Communications District Board of Directors. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. So we'll do roll call. I see Henry Heimuller, Sean Clark, Rob Anderson, Shelley Hennessy. For staff is Nancy, Mary Jo, Laura, Nathan, and of course me. I don't believe we have any members of the public. Nathan, you can make sure we don't have anybody in the waiting room.
I've disabled this so anybody that joins automatically comes in.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. President, if you're okay, I can just take it away here.
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. Thanks. So, thanks everybody for the joining us in this emergency meeting. A little background for education for anybody that may be listening. The 911 district owns a public safety land mobile radio system, and that system is really comprised of two different systems. So we have our normal push-to-talk radio system that we all are familiar with, but there is a subsection to that radio network, and that's our microwave system. And the microwave provides synchrony and timing across our simulcast system. So all the tower sites have microwave links to them, and it keeps everything in sync. So that's how simulcast works. The issue that we're discussing today was discovered literally about this same time last week. Day Wireless was noticing a problem with the microwave link running between Clatskanie Mountain and the Columbia Heights site in Longview. They did some research on what was taking place, on which end there might be a problem, and just again for education, the microwave system is a redundant system, which means that each transmitter receiver has actually two sides, an A and a B side. And the theory on those systems is if we're operating on the A side and for whatever reason there's a problem, it'll automatically fail over to the B side and hold the system up, and life is fine. A repair technician would get the alert, go up there, fix the A side, and then it's back into a redundant capabilities, A and a B side. So the issue is affecting those two sites, and what's really important is the Columbia Heights site is really our prime site. That's where all the voters live. That's the kind of the brains of the system. So anything that affects that site affects the whole system. And what was discovered is one of the transmitters in this Alcatel transmitters box, the A and the B side were locked, and they tried to reset it, which crashes the whole system because it is, again, talking to that prime site in Longview. That's not good. So they're unable to fix it in a live environment, and when they try to, it drops the entire radio system, so don't want to do that. So right now it is operational, it is working, but it is fragile because if anything happens, there's no fallback, there's no B side to go to. So initially, starting last weekend, I had conversations with Day Wireless. Okay, it is what it is. This is old stuff. We understand that. How do we fix this? Parts are extremely scarce. Again, the stuff is 20, 30 years old, and the manufacturer doesn't support it anymore, and any spare parts are really just other scavenged used parts. And we're getting those from the third tier marketplace, which is eBay or any other third tier marketplace. So they're not easy to find. And with everything being as it is in this country with supply chain, trying to find stuff and getting it here is most difficult. Day Wireless does have some scavenged parts, and so we developed a option A, option B. Option A is at some point in the middle of the night when it's really quiet, and we have the statistics when we're busy, when we're not, what day, what hours. We would coordinate with them, and they would have staff at both of those sites, and they would take the system down and replace a single card, one of those two A or B sides, and try and see if they could reset it. Their level of confidence is very low that that's going to fix it. So plan B was, and that downtime would be about 15 minutes. Plan B is to literally take the entire chassis out of the rack and then swap out all the cards with other old cards and put it back in. That downtime is about 45 minutes to an hour. Confidence level, very low. The compounding factor with that, if A and B failed, those repairs, the system could literally be permanently down with no estimate when they could bring it back up, because they're going to need new parts to do that. And so it literally could be days, weeks that we have no LMR system. That's not sustainable. So I contacted M&I. So we're, again, going backwards a little bit. As you guys recall, we started our own system upgrades of our microwave system a year and a half or so ago. And the purpose of doing that is because we know that that microwave system is obsolete and tired. And so we have the funds available, and we were incrementally doing forklift upgrades of our microwave system. So we started with the shot from Green Mountain to Clatskanie, and our intent was to continue that work because it needs to be done. It was going to be done regardless if we did the new radio system upgrade. This would be part of it, but if we can do these piece by piece on our dime, we don't have to increase our general obligation bond ask of the public. So we're doing kind of saving ourselves money in the long run. So our intent was to continue that project this year, and with the rebuild of the Meisner site, that was going to be part of the ask of you guys to authorize the funds. We're going to be doing the civil work, and part of that would be putting up a new microwave for that shot back to Clatskanie. The other thing we wanted to do is continue the project and go from Clatskanie to Corey Hill, Vernonia. So this, we weren't really going to talk about doing this shot from Clatskanie to Longview because we're looking at possibly moving the Longview site. This emergency repair kind of makes all that moot. We need to fix this. And so talking to M&I, they have equipment on hand, on the shelf, available for us to use. And it's all brand new. So it's just like what we were doing from Green to Clatskanie. If you authorize this, what the plan would be is option C. And it's a two-parter, two-phased. The most emergent thing that we need is the radios themselves, the T1 cards and the radios, the transmitters and the receivers at both ends. They have those available. If you authorize this, I'll give them a call today and they will start programming that stuff Monday. They're planning on pre-racking, pre-programming everything and drop ship it to us by aircraft. And then they would come up here 28th is the guess, 29th maybe, and working with M&I on in-house and Day Wireless, again, middle of the night work, swap out those radios. The plan is that we would put a new rack right next to 90 degrees of the current rack at Clatskanie. So all that stuff's racked up, and literally all they have to do is when we say go, they take down the system and they just literally disconnect the waveguide from the broken system, swing it around to the new equipment rack, plug it in, and everything should work. Literally less than 10 minutes downtime. That's great, but if we're going to put in new transmitters and receivers, we want the whole thing, the whole package done. New waveguide, new power supplies, new dehumidifiers, new antennas, so it's truly brand new. This proposal includes the purchase of all of that stuff and the services and the decommissioning of the old Alcatel stuff. It's a whole package. It's just going to be done in two phases. The immediate emergency repair, and then when we ship, they'll ship all the other components, and we'll coordinate the schedule for the construction and deconstruction in conjunction with M&I and Day Wireless. So that's kind of the background and the game plan. The ask is, their quote is $254,321. I'm trying to always put a buffer on that, 10%. So my ask is for $279,753. Any questions?
Mike, you described that pretty much exactly the same as you did the other day on the phone, and I appreciate that, minus the $279,000 part.
Right.
Is that what we're expected to, as we go from each one of these sites? I mean, is this a $250,000 project every one of these sites that we do this to?
Probably in the range of between 2 and 250. Yes, that's the normal going rate per hop. Yes.
Man.
Not inexpensive, no.
So is this all equipment that we have never replaced in the 20 years since our radio system, 22 years that our radio system's been in place?
As far as I know, and the records I can find, that is correct. It's all
I see
original.
Nancy nodding, so.
Yeah.
And this is all, as you said early on, stuff that in our radio upgrades we're going to do or have to do anyway.
That is correct also.
Now, is there any possibility, and I think you answered this for me, but just so everybody can hear the same question, is there any possibility that in whatever kind of radio system that we end up with, that this equipment is either going to be obsolete or non-functional or hampered in some way based on the fact that we haven't decided 100% on what radio we're buying?
Yep, that's a good question, and the answer is microwave is agnostic. It does not care what band or what vendor brand you're using for the top portion of your system. It's really just a subsystem, and it doesn't care what's above it, so it will not be obsolete.
And my final question is assuming that the board were willing to take a little bit of risk and not call this an emergency and deal with it at our board meeting and go through an RFQ or some kind of a process, is there any likelihood that we would save $100,000 or some kind of a number like that that's worth worrying about by taking a little bit of a risk?
I think, in my opinion, the risk is time, and the system is fragile enough as it is, and the fact that we have equipment available to us, it's in stock, it's on the shelf, and can start to be programmed Monday. It's very, very fast turnaround for us, which is a good thing. I mean, literally, this thing could take a dump tonight, and we'd be in the dark until the 29th. I'm not interested in that. I don't think you are. If we waited until the 9th of December, which is our next meeting, I wouldn't be inclined to change or put out an RFP for another vendor, another brand of, because that's just more time. Doing an RFP, reviewing the bids, that's all just time, and we're already have a clock ticking.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Can you hear me now?
I still can.
Ooh, I don't have to hit my space bar. Okay, good to know. Good thing I wasn't talking bad things about you earlier. So I just want a couple questions and to help me think this through. And again, this was something before that we kind of exclusively relied on Palin's previously, was where is it worth spending money on? And I do believe that improving the microwave and maintaining it was definitely one of those things where he said, yes, this is an area where you're not throwing money away. As you pointed out, if we do end up moving sites down the road, we still own the equipment. We would just have to pay to relocate the equipment if the site were to move. At that point, timeliness, and Henry was asking, do we know just in general, with all the fun global shortages that are out there, you know, is this one of these things where, yeah, we're lucky we found what we found in stock right now? Do they anticipate these things being harder to find in the near future? And also for timeliness, now that we're in November, looking at approaching December, are any of these sites that they have to access going to be weather a consideration?
So all good questions. Yes, in fact, in this conversation for this repair, both the Day Wireless side and M&I are aware that we are looking at that Columbia Heights site as maybe not being there in the future, and they understand that with this purchase, you're right, we own the equipment, we can just pick it up, and that sounds easy because it won't be, but we could pick it up and move it to another site 3 miles to the further to the east at Columbia Heights South. We could do that, yes. And your second question, Rob, was
Availability of
thank you.
as you hit, you know, shortages with chips and everything else, anything that's electronics.
I didn't ask that of M&I this week, but I'd be happy to. Looking forward for the Meisner build, that's a good point.
And the last question was weather, accessing sites,
Thank
if that's
you.
a consideration. It's kind of just like, as Henry said, you know, whether we make a decision today or, you know, try to kick this to the next meeting. You know, I'm looking at the pros and cons or reasons to say why it has to be done. Reasons why we'd want to move forward here quickly today.
So right now, weather's not an issue. Columbia Heights is much lower. Clatskanie is the highest point we have, but so far it's snow-free.
I think I just want to make sure that we have this meeting well detailed and the minutes well detailed for our November 9th meeting so that the public gets the full picture of the situation and the decision that we've had to make.
We have the recording going.
Yeah, this is always the risk of an emergency meeting is some people's perceptions that we're, you know, backroom dealing and all of that kind of crap. So appreciate
Understood.
that.
I think you guys had, or shed light. Mike, you filled in things on the phone before, and I think, Rob, your questions were good too. I don't have any further questions.
Is Shelley on verbally, or is her audio working, Shelley? I haven't heard anything from her. I want to make sure that she's been hearing all this.
I am here and I'm listening to everything. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can
ma'am.
hear you now, Shelley. I just hadn't wanted to make sure that you weren't in the dark.
No. You know, I think my question before when I talked to Mike was, you know, where's the money coming from? And he explained that it comes out of an emergency fund to take care of that, but it wasn't something that was going to be our reserve fund. I guess that's how you said that. So that was my concern, was how that was going to be taken care of.
Yeah, it would come out of the equipment reserve fund, and our balance is just shy of $2 million, so it's not a fiscal impact to the general fund.
Which, if I recall right, that's exactly why this fund exists, and the reason why, with some scrutiny, why it is so high in dollar value, because if there's a more significant repair that would have to be done, the costs go up quick.
We have expensive things, that is correct.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the emergency expenditure of the amount that the administrator presented a moment ago and get on with it.
And Sean, you're muted.
That's option C, correct, Mike?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the expenditure presented option C for $279,753. Did I get that correct, Mike?
It is correct, yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion?
And just notation that that amount includes contingencies.
And I'll also share not only contingency, but there is a portion that Day Wireless, it falls outside of their maintenance agreement because this is repairs, but this contingency will cover their expenses as well.
Is there any other comments? Questions?
If I heard right, so this is going to be in 2 phases. The first phase is to get the equipments up and running, to replace the questionable units that are pending failure, and then to come back later and finish the rest of the project.
That is correct.
Thank you.
But all the same money.
Correct.
This is inclusive of everything.
It is.
Yeah, thanks.
All good questions. Any other? Shelley, do you have anything to add or questions?
Do we know when they're going to finish doing the second phase of this?
Not yet, no.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve option C as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I will be, at the conclusion of this call, I'll be calling Houston, Texas and saying we have a green light, we're going, and we'll get them working on this. I'll keep you posted. Our next board meeting is Thursday, December 9th, regular time, 9 a.m. So thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Have a good Thanksgiving. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.